everyone. I hope this finds each of you so very well. I'm speaking to you from my studio in West Orange, New Jersey, and I could not be more delighted to have the pleasure of interviewing Amber Kasic, a former 20-year classroom educator who is now an evidential medium, an end-of-life coach, and a spiritual coach for those having a spiritual awakening experience. In 2020, Amber experienced a life-altering spiritual awakening through a profound shared death experience with her father, Frank, who passed from cancer. Frank is now a guiding presence for Amber from the spiritual realm, continuing to inspire her journey of self-discovery and her connection to the infinite reality that unites us all. Amber has contributed as an author to 2 inspiring works, Mediumship, Sacred Communications Across the Veil by Suzanne Giesemann, and Divine Synchronicity, Women's Stories of Magic, Miracles, and Manifesting by Linda Joy. Her extraordinary journey of spiritual awakening and mediumship was featured at the 2024 International Association of Near-Death Studies Conference, and I'm deeply honored to share that Amber and I are among 60 thought leaders whose perspectives on near-death experiences, mediumship, channeling, and psychic phenomena have shaped the groundbreaking documentary Every Soul Knows. This powerful film reveals the profound truth that our essence transcends the boundaries of physical existence and human identity. I'm looking forward to talking with Amber, who lives in Grand Haven, Michigan, about her shared death experience with her father and why it was so healing for her, how her father continues to inspire Amber's transformative spiritual journey, how her dad gave Amber the opportunity to get to know her soul self. I feel sure that you will deeply resonate with Amber's heartfelt hope for everyone to recognize their innate wholeness, divinity, and worthiness, that at our core, we are deeply connected and already complete. Hi there, and welcome to the Grief and Rebirth podcast. I'm your host, author and trauma survivor Irene Weinberg, here to encourage you wherever you are in your healing journey. In each episode, I chat with incredible grief and trauma specialists, healers, mediums, and celebs, as well as remarkable people who have inspiring healing stories to share. If you're looking for a podcast that's both uplifting and inspiring, you've found it. Let us help you find your joy in life. Hi, Amber, a heartfelt welcome to Grief and Rebirth podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. As I was telling you before, I really feel a little bit of a divine synchronicity that we're talking to each other today, as I felt your purity of heart when I saw you in the film that we shared together.
Thank you so much. And the feeling is mutual. I also was sharing with Amber, everyone, that I went through all these people, and I was so drawn to Amber. I said, I really want to bring her to our audience for everyone to get to know her. She has the most amazing story that we're going to talk about now, because how many people have ever heard of a shared death experience? It's amazing. So Amber, could you start by describing your dad and tell us about your relationship with him, including some of the heartaches and flaws you and your dad never really spoke about?
Sure. Yes. Well, my dad's name is Frank, and he had a big personality. Everyone loved my dad. He had a genuine heart. He was a jokester, although, to the daughter, it's not really funny, but funny. And so you kind of laugh, but, but he loved being sarcastic. He loved his jokes. He would have been a cowboy in his other life if he could choose. He loved animals and horses and Native American history and cowboy culture. He loved history in general. My dad was a very dynamic man. I will say that for sure. Very dynamic. And, like all of us, he's also very complex. In some ways, my dad and I I say we're like oil and water. We had different ways sometimes of looking at life, different beliefs, just lots of differences. And yet I always felt some type of, I don't know, connection with him, but I wouldn't have been able to put my finger on what that was because it's not like we were very similar in our personalities by any means. My dad is the epitome of strong and brave and masculine. And I'm the epitome of femininity and compassion. So we just were kind of opposite in that way. And he also had his complexities. We had our conflicts in that way. My dad struggled with some alcohol when I was a child, which caused some dysfunction at home and things like that. And that those kinds of things, they have an effect on you. It stays with you as an adult. We didn't always unpack and process all of that. And yet I felt very compelled at his passing to make sure he knew how loved he was, how perfectly imperfect he was, and that he was forgiven. And I found my ways to say that without saying it directly.
How did you find in your heart that acceptance and unconditional love and forgiveness while this happened while he was physically dying, right?
Mhm.
And you also had a heartfelt message to him before he transitioned. I mean, it's beautiful about even though there were some issues with him, how you were able to open and to him and love him at that time. So
Yeah.
how did you do that?
Well, one, I felt a little bit, I don't know why, but some part of me, now I know why,
Mhm.
but some part of me at the time really felt compelled to make sure that he passed with peace. And I think in part I was worried because we hadn't unpacked some of those more difficult parts of ourselves as a family. And him and I hadn't had direct conversations about that. And I don't know, I was so compelled to make sure that he felt at peace at passing. I felt like that was very important. And I didn't even know why I felt that, but I just did. And so I just started doing things before he passed. I'd write him emails about why I loved him. And it was my way of letting him know how loved he was and that I forgave and all the good things I saw about him. And it was my way of letting him know that I'm not holding on to that stuff. And in a way, it was a process for me too. It was a process for myself and my soul of letting go of that stuff, um, even if it wasn't necessarily given back. But in the last hours of his life, when I was, he passed in hospice care at home. And I remember having this moment where it was typical, just such great pain because I had already had my last conversation with him. He was no longer speaking, he was unconscious. And in those moments, you understand that your loved one is gone and yet they're not, they're still here. And I was thinking about all the things left unsaid and done, all of the things that won't be in the future, him seeing his grandson start school, all that kind of stuff. But I had this moment where the pain was so great that instead I just stopped thinking. I don't even think it was by choice, but I just stopped thinking and I became fully present with him and I focused on unconditional love because in this moment I was holding his hand. In this moment, he's this father that I love. In this moment, I can think about all these beautiful qualities of him and our relationship. And my message to him, well, around the shared death experience, really, I don't know if this is an appropriate
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So as
And
I
it's
was
an amazing your experience was amazing.
as I was just having that moment of full presence and unconditional love, laying next to him, and it's in the middle of the afternoon. I have family in the house. They're kind of in the kitchen behind. I was so drawn inward and just focused on this connection that we were having. And all of a sudden, my eyes are closed. I'm seeing like swirls of purple in my mind's vision. I didn't think anything of that necessarily, except that that's not really normal for me. And then I felt a warmth start at the crown of my head and just slowly kind of encompass me from head to toe. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, the sun must be coming in the window and kind of, like playing tricks on me. But with full clarity right after that, with full clarity, I felt what I can only describe as a force. And the reason I use that word, a force, is because it was like wind, but not wind, because it wasn't on my skin. But it was a feeling I never in my life had before. So the best way to describe it is a force. And it came in my back. It was like a whoosh. And it all was concentrated right here at my heart or in the center of my chest. Now I would use the word heart center, not a word I ever used before or at that time. And it just was doing these slow circles on the inside of my body. The feeling was so new that I couldn't even my brain didn't even have time to judge it. It could only be in this presence and experience what was happening. And so as it was almost like, are you noticing? My brain is catching up with what's happening. And that slow swirling paused, and then it slowly traveled to my shoulder. Again, all of this is on the inside of my body. Doesn't even make logical sense. And it paused at my shoulder, and then it traveled down my arm, again on the inside of my arm, and it went into my hand, which was holding my dad's hand. And I just knew, I knew it, that energy, that force, that whatever it was, went into my dad too. I knew it. And I gave him this huge hug, and the words just came out of my mouth. I said, Dad, I don't know what that was, but I know you felt it too. And you take all that love and light in your core with you. I'd heard that phrase before, but it's coming from somewhere within me. And it was just natural. It didn't feel forced. You take all that love and light with you in your core and leave the old news behind. And that was my way of saying, please don't think about all that stuff. I know who you are. I know your essence, which is genuine and good and helpful and love and all of that fun, good stuff about you. And that's what I want you to go with. Looking back, only now, years later, and as an evidential medium, and now having unpacked so much of this, I really believe that that was a part of my role. My role was to support him in that transition so that he could go with peace and clarity into the afterlife, into the beyond, into the here, because it's all here. And then his role back was about to be to help me discover my own soul, that we're all a part of something so much bigger than our brain can ever comprehend. And that there is a tapestry of connection at the essence of life that is everything. It is the force that makes up who we are and everything that we see.
It's beautiful. Amber, I know after people transition, they get a life review. And after your father transitioned, he obviously got a life review, and he shared a message with you. So this is what you said to him. But after he transitioned and now you're in touch with him, what was it that he said to you?
Yeah, well, the first thing he said to me was actually just about, I don't know, 10 hours after he passed. I had gone to a park just to unpack. It was a very emotionally heavy week. I was actually elated, though. I don't want to lose that. When I left that house, I had joy. I almost thought, what's wrong with me? I blasted music in my car and I'm singing because I knew we were eternally bonded. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't even know why I felt that. I just knew it. And I knew all was well. Everything is fine.
You'd also had an experience where you were filled with love.
Yeah, absolutely. But the brain couldn't explain any of that. But that was innate. It was just my truth. But about 10 hours after he passed, and I had gone to the park, and I just finally had a moment of letting tears go. And it wasn't even grief. It was just the release of the heaviness of being with someone who's passing for a whole week. And I heard his voice, his actual voice in my mind. And that voice said, "Get out of the car, Amby. You've cried enough tears over me in your life." And that tells you, I now know he had had his life review. He understood his actions, like we all have, that impact people, our complexities and how they impact people. And I thought to myself in the car, like, clearly I made that up, right? But I thought to myself, gee, I have cried enough tears over him in my life. And so I got out of the car and I started walking. And I was just talking to myself. I didn't think I was talking to my dad. I thought I made that up. But I said, just in my own heart space, in my mind, I said to myself, gee, Dad, I hope you're all right. And without a moment hesitation, his voice was back in my mind and he responded, I'm just fine, Amby. I'm going to stick around here a while and help some people. And I'm happy about it. And my thought was, well, I had two thoughts. One, I stopped walking because a part of me recognized, well, of course, I have to be making this up, right? But a part of me recognized if Amber, myself as Amber, were making that up, I wouldn't have said that. I would have said, heaven's so beautiful. I'm with our dog Thunder again. And I saw my granddad, and you're going to see your dog Thunder. That's what Amber would have made up. Not, I'm going to stick around here a while and help some people.
That's
And my next
amazing.
thought was, who would he be helping? I didn't even consider me. I just thought, that's so weird. Who would he be helping? But, a few weeks later, because I was experiencing what I felt was signs and wasn't really stuff I believed in. And I could I just had this feeling of his presence, but I didn't know what that meant. I didn't fully believe. I just didn't understand. And out of curiosity, I went to a medium. And my dad came through immediately, and I had no doubt. He showed up as Superman. That's exactly what he would do. He was a police officer. He loved his strong self. He loved his broad chest. And, he was a brave man. He saved numerous people's lives in life. My dad had no physical fear. He had physical courage. I have courage of the heart. But my dad had physical courage. And that's exactly how he would show up. And the first thing out of his mouth through the medium, is it okay if I use this word on your podcast?
You can absolutely.
Okay. He said, I was a jackass, and I'm going to make it up to you in my own way. Now, there was much more evidence than that about, himself and his life and things that are ungoogleable and all that kind of stuff. But if you are a medium and you are making this kind of thing up, you never start with, I was a jackass. I mean,
Right.
That's a huge risk, right? If you're
Right. And that would be a word your father would use.
it
And that's
was his personality, the crassness, right?
it's an identifier. Absolutely.
Yeah. And you know what? He was a jackass sometimes. But that tells you, to your question, he had his life review. And I think because I aided him so much in his passing with forgiveness and peace, now he was going to aid me in knowing my worth, knowing who I am as a soul, and being exposed to what is here for all of us that is just beyond our biological senses, if you will.
And he gets a perk as he works with you. He gets to heal and he learns more and more and more
Absolutely.
because they're with us, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
another question I want to ask you, because my husband and I also have a soul contract. So how did you discover that you and your dad have a soul contract? And could you explain soul contracts? Do we all have soul contracts, Amber? And what does yours entail?
Sure. Well, not that my dad had ever used that exact phrase to me. In one of my meditative experiences, he did share with me, I can't believe I get to do this. And what he meant was being here along my side, especially in that first year, guiding me down this path of discovery, because it really was him dangling carrots in front of me all the time and showing me a reality that is right here that I could have never imagined for myself. And I would not have embarked upon if I didn't find myself in amazing experiences that didn't make any sense to my logical mind. And when he said to me, I can't believe I get to do this, it came with that sense of, I've been given the opportunity to allow to be this person for you.
Wow.
And to me, that's a soul contract. And to me, or on the other side of that, as I was kind of sharing, I think it was a part of my path to be that person to give him peace at the end of his life. person to forgive him and all that kind of thing that allowed him to have probably a positive after death experience. Well, death of the physical body anyway. And now
I
we have this partnership. He shows up in my readings sometimes, not all the time. He's always wearing a police uniform, and he kind of shows me that he's directing traffic. And listen, I get that this sounds very
no,
crazy.
I think no, to me, it sounds absolutely wonderful because, of course, I've interviewed a lot of people and I've heard about a lot of experiences, and I absolutely love that his identifier is he shows up in a police uniform because
Yeah,
it's him. You
oh,
can't
I
make
want
that up.
yeah, I feel like I'm remembering this and I want to share. He said to me one time in a meditative experience, um, that phrase that the police officers use, to protect, defend, and serve. He said to me one time, to protect, to defend, to serve. I had that all wrong. And I knew what he meant. It just came with the knowing. It's not that that phrase is wrong, but he kind of was saying to me, I forgot to make sure I'm enacting those within my family, not just in my community.
Right.
Protect, to defend, and serve my family as well. And so our relationship even is definitely like we're learning from each other. Absolutely. I learn from him across the veil. He learns, I know, from me, and just seeing how I process events in my life. And we absolutely have a collaboration in spirit.
I would submit also that not only is he learning from you and you are from him, but he's having a blast. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
he could be floating in a cloud. Who knows what he's doing over there? But now he's working with his daughter, and you're sharing so much with him that he's getting so many more insights and so much depth
He-
of
Yeah,
understanding for what his life
absolutely.
was about.
And I love that you shared he's having a blast because he is. He plays jokes on me. I'll tell you one that was short and sweet, but also helped me discover a little bit how mediumship works a little bit, gave me some insight. When he passed, and of course, they were taking the body out of the house, they had him on a stretcher, and they dropped him when they were going down the stairs
Oh
out there.
my goodness.
Of course, they were mortified. Of course. And I remember turning to my mom and saying, I don't know what dad would say because I'm not funny, but he would absolutely make a joke about this right now. He would not even be upset about it. He would make an awesome joke about it because that was my dad's personality. And as we were learning to communicate in spirit in a meditative experience, I was missing his stupid jokes. And I said to him, Dad, can you tell me a joke? And he brought me back to that memory of him being dropped. And
Oh,
he was helping me. It's like these internal feelings, and he was helping me feel that he had heard me say that, in the moment. Dad would make a joke about this right now. And then he said in his own voice in my mind, he communicated to me, that was actually really hard for me, Amber. I didn't like seeing myself like that. And I immediately, in this meditative experience, felt a little bit ashamed. I felt a little embarrassed. I felt badly because I'm empathizing with someone that's saying to me, no, actually, that wasn't funny and that was hard for me. And the minute he felt, the minute he in spirit felt my poor feelings, he goes, way to kick me when I'm down.
no, I mean, that's such a pure identifier for him.
Yeah, and it shows you the depth of this connection and what's really going on. Our loved ones in spirit know our thoughts. They feel our feelings. And he used that in spirit to play a joke on me. He knew I would feel bad and feel empathy once he told me that that actually was really hard for him and it wasn't funny. And then he made a joke about it because it was funny and it wasn't hard for him.
It was kind of embarrassing even though he was out of his body already, right? I love that he called you Ambi. How could anybody know that he called you Ambi? Really, those are the insignificant but very significant identifiers.
Right.
So exactly how did you discover your gift of mediumship? Because here you have a shared death experience. You have no idea of any of this. Now you're getting messages from your father. And all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but next up, we find out that you're a medium yourself. So Tell us about that part of your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for the first few months, these were just experiences with my dad. And listen, I didn't believe them at first. It really was 9 months of a belief journey. And I would, go back and forth. I believe, I don't believe, because that is sort of that internal battle when you're having a spiritual awakening or growing. I mean, we live in this human ego driven world, and ego doesn't have to be a bad thing, but it doesn't comprehend this. And so we have to learn, and the experiences that give us opportunities to slowly let go of that part of ourselves. So I was having all these experiences with my father, and my mom, who didn't know because I was afraid to tell her, just sends me one day. And my mom didn't believe in mediumship. We didn't talk about mediums. Like, no way did she believe in them. But she sent me one day a webinar that she randomly saw of a class that Suzanne Giesemann was teaching called Soul to Soul Communication. And all my mom said was, in this message to me, for some reason, I think that you would like this. I have no idea why she would say
But
that.
she didn't even know your story. She didn't even know you hadn't shared anything with her.
I have no clue. But I watched that webinar and I said, this is what's happening to me. Because for months, I've been asking myself, what's happening to me? And I felt crazy, but yet I knew I wasn't crazy. And I watched that and I said, this is what's happening to me. And her class started the next day. I did not take it to be a medium. I took it to understand what is happening to me with this communication with my dad. But because of her background, because of her groundedness, because of her credibility, I just was so drawn to everything that she was sharing, and enrolling in that course blew the glass ceiling off the house. All of a sudden, I was experiencing connections with others, people in my life and their loved ones, and I wasn't trying. It was just happening. Truly, Spirit was dangling carrots and putting breadcrumbs on my path because they know I'm a naturally curious person and I'm pretty open minded. And they knew Spirit always knows us better than we know ourselves.
Yeah.
Our loved ones know us in spirit, know us better than we know ourselves now. And they knew how I would proceed down a path and, what would so-called help me grow. And I really just I fully developed those mediumship abilities as a part of that course. I still didn't call myself a medium.
Right, because you were still afraid of it.
Yeah,
You were still afraid of it. So you're hiding your gift, right?
I was for a while. Yes.
And then you had a mediumship session, right, with a woman?
Yes, I had a session, we'll call it just a practice session with someone from the class. Of course, I didn't know anything about her. And it changed everything for me because while we were in this so-called just practice, I felt this woman that I described as I went like this. Well, she's helping me feel because I feel in my body. She's old, but then young, and then now she's old, and then she's young again. And I didn't even comprehend what that meant. And then she's showing me a Virgin Mary statue with art utensils at its feet. And she interrupted me and said, well, I have an aunt who has Alzheimer's and she paints Virgin Mary statues as a hobby, but she's not passed on. And I thought to myself, well, this is fascinating, but how can those two things be a coincidence, right? But I've learned enough at that point to know that we are all souls. And when we pass, it is not just we're here and then we're there. There are transitions happening for us at the physical and soul level. So I just asked her, well, I just find this interesting. Is it okay if we keep going? And she said, yes. And this woman helped me feel she has this stuffed animal and blanket and they're missing and she wants them back just for comfort. I kept wanting to do this. Like she's wanting to pull up her blanket and I just know it's missing and she doesn't have this stuffed animal. And then a man comes in and oh, it was so strong. I felt him. I felt him in my own body. I know he has a deep voice and a broad chest and he's very masculine. And And then I literally said, I don't know why I'm saying this because I know it sounds ridiculous, but he's parading around in high heels in a skirt going, ha, 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 ha. And she said, this is my uncle. It is my aunt with Alzheimer's brother, and
Oh my
he
God.
is passed on. And at the last family party before he passed, oh, that was the other thing. He's got all his shopping bags and his skirt on and his high heels, and he's parading around laughing. At the last family party before he passed, he put on, like, just funny, haha, women's clothings with all of the shopping bags to impersonate his sister, the woman with Alzheimer's.
Oh my goodness.
This was
Oh my
him in
goodness.
this connection passed on, giving the evidence that was him. And then he helped me feel I'm helping her. As I shared all of this, she shared, well, I don't live anywhere near her. From my knowledge, everything is fine. But when we hung up, she called the family caretaker, and they went to, just after that, they got a call from the assisted living facility and said, we think your loved one is going to be passing away soon. You should
Wow.
come. And so they went, and guess what? Her stuffed animal was missing. Her blanket was missing. They found it folded on a shelf, tucked away in a random laundry room closet. And so they were able to bring that to her. And it's not that she like literally needed them to move on, but we all want comfort at passing, right? This was her soul expressing what she wanted for comfort as she passed.
Amazing.
And she did. She passed within hours. And this lovely woman that I was practicing with, she told this story at her aunt's funeral. But to me, it was so important because it reminded me of my experience with my dad at his passing. And it helped solidify for me. I am here to support people in all sorts of things around end of life and passing. Because while, yes, in the moment we can be amazed by ourselves just at that experience, but this isn't about me. It's about the beauty in a way. No, that's the wrong word. It's about the sacredness of death because it is a beauty and a beautiful sacred transition to just our next way of being. It's not the end. It's truly just a sacred transition. And the fact that this session, it's not that it was me, but it was orchestrated. How did I end up practicing with her that day? That is out of my control. She's the
Absolutely
one who
true.
reached out to me. It happened that day. Oh, and it was on January 11th, 111. When my dad passed on 11/1.
That's amazing. That's
None of
also
this is an
amazing.
accident.
No,
And that experience made me say, I can't hide this from the world because this is a beautiful offering to bring comfort and people together to help us understand the sacred transition that is death, to help ease that grief. Of course, we're still going to grieve our loved ones, but to know that they are whole and well and everything is beautiful beyond, truly. That's not even placating.
what a gift.
It's a gift. It's a
It's a
gift.
gift. It's a blessing. It's a gift.
So that experience kind of helped me really feel pulled to say, I can't hide this anymore.
How long have you been doing this now, Amber?
Well, really professionally, where I feel confident and this is what I am doing, this will be my 3rd year. Just recently, I stepped away from my 20-year career in education because it's a passion call. That was a really hard decision. It is zero logic based at all.
I can relate. I can relate.
Yeah, yeah, it really is zero logic based, and, education it's been my identity. It's not even been a job for me, it's been my identity. But this is a calling for humanity.
That's right.
It's not even about mediumship. It's
And in a way, you're educating people. Look at how many
right.
things you're saying today in this interview that people are, wow, there's such a thing as a shared death experience. You're telling them about your takeaways from your father's transition. that
Yeah.
you were getting all these messages. This is so important. So I want to ask you, what have you learned about life and dying through evidential mediumship sessions that you've already been giving? Because you're obviously doing this and learning a lot. Look at what you learned just from this woman with Alzheimer's.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. Okay, it's not written yet, and I'm about to start it. But I actually really want to write a book called Lessons for Living from Beyond.
And you'll come back on the podcast and
Yeah.
we'll share it with everyone.
Because evidential mediumship and just this awakening in general is constantly giving me lessons for living and exposing me to this connectedness. Truly, there is a tapestry of connection to the essence of life that is underlying everything that we see. We can't even fully comprehend of the beautiful connections that exist. But I learned so much. One thing I'll share that I think is important for listeners and for the idea of hope, especially around passing, is that when we pass, we are absolutely greeted with truly a reception from the other side that is best fitting for us. That has been shown to me through evidence. It's not just I want to believe that. Things that are so beyond understanding, it can't be possible any other way. And I'll give you a real shortened version of a quick story of evidence about that, but is amazing. When I was having a mediumship connection with a client, her brother came in and he was dancing. His name was Dancing Tim. That's what everybody called him, and that's how he showed up in the connection. And he said immediately, "We're preparing a party." And then I feel the mother, and she's setting, it was right around Christmas. She's setting the Christmas table. They gave me lots of evidence that would, absolutely make it known it's them, but they were preparing for my client's brother's arrival. And then I learned, yes, he's in hospice.
Wow.
At the end of our session, I saw the little bell ring from It's a Wonderful Life, the movie, and the little girls, every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings. And I told that to her. And I said, "Does this make any sense to you?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Well, there's something about this that feels future. So just remember that it came up." A week later, she wrote me an email and said, "My brother passed today." And she told me what time it was. And I thought, oh, I'm feeling that empathy for her and those, of course, and being sorry for the passing. And then I had this thought. I went to a craft fair today. And I think right around that same time that she's talking about, it was like 2:11 in the afternoon. I was at this Christmas craft fair and I bought this angel bell. Well, my husband still had the receipt, so I had him go get it. She shared with me the phone call that she got from the sister and the timestamp of 2:11. I looked at that receipt. I was at that craft show ringing all these angel bells. And I even said to my husband, "I don't know why, but I just feel compelled to ring all these angel bells." And then I bought one. What time was it? 2:11.
Wow.
I was there ringing these angel bells at the time of his passing. And in our reading a week before, I had been given that this feels future. Every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings.
Wow.
He was welcomed by his brother. He was welcomed by his mother. They were having a Christmas party for him.
Wow. It's
It's just a
fabulous.
beautiful experience. And, it's one of those mind-blowing moments that it humbles you because you see, I didn't make those choices to do any of that. I was being guided. Not all of our thoughts are our own. And this goes for everyone listening. Not all of your thoughts are your own, even if they feel like they are.
Absolutely true. I can absolutely attest to that from my story. Right. They're absolutely not. Sometimes you think things and you're like, that's not my thought. Where did that come from? You're getting help. Pay attention. Right.
Absolutely.
Right. So now we know about your mediumship. Tell us about what you do as an end of life coach and a spiritual coach for those having a spiritual awakening experience.
The sacredness of death and dying is now my passion. And it's funny almost in a weird way to say that with a smile. But it is because I want everyone. It's not, of course, I honor that we experience tragic loss that happens way too soon, unexpected loss. this does not take away from any of that. And that is to be validated and honored with its own process. At the same time, I really feel called to help us all approach our own passing with a demystification of death and dying, a sense of hope and beauty about the love that we will be enveloped in and all that is to come. And, in our culture, we fear death so much. And not only does that impact the person approaching death, but it also impacts the loved ones around them. And I think of my experiences with my own father's passing. I was a mess for 9 months before he passed. All I could do was be up every night, wondering how much he was going to suffer, wondering when he's going to die, how's it all going to happen. It was terrible. And if I knew then what I know now, I would have loved totally differently. I would have been more present. It's not that I wouldn't have still been sad, but I would have coped in an entirely different way. And it is a part of my mission to help people approach death with this sense of sacredness, because we will go on. You will still know your loved one, be aware of your loved one, see your loved one, hear your loved one, feel their thoughts, feel their feelings. We all can have a relationship with our loved ones. It is a matter of learning to uncover the cloudiness of the awareness. But I'm not special. Well, that's not true. I am special, but so are you.
We're all special,
They're
each in our own
all
way.
equally special. While it may have been my path to have this extraordinariness that put me on the path of mediumship, this is not something that is just for me or just for some. It's for everyone. And it's a part of my calling to help people understand that and learn that for themselves. So if you're in a spiritual awakening, wow, is that a whole journey? And I want to support people with that.
So if someone's going through a spiritual awakening, they go, Amber, if something's happening to me, I quite don't understand this and this and this. So you can help them to put the pieces together. And that's one question I want to ask. And the other one is, if someone's life is coming to the end, somebody can call you and say, can you help shepherd me through this experience with my loved one? Is that what you're doing
Yeah,
for people?
yeah. So the end of life coaching is a holistic process that promotes well being across 5 domains: your physical and practical wellness. So that's what are your wants, desires, and needs around end of life care and passing. But then there's mental, emotional, and spiritual.
Right.
Many of us my dad included, deal in secret, deal in our own internal world with our passing. The person who's passing is doing that. Their loved one is doing that. I should say loved ones. And we're all having our own experience, and it's all separate. And we don't even know the beauty that is available to us by coming together in that. So while it is a personal process for the one that's at the end of life to help them feel whole and prepare for that in a holistic way, it also has a ripple effect on the family members around them, because they will be involved in the process. Their loved one is going to be communicating with them if they feel comfortable about some of these pieces. It's a one-on-one coaching relationship to help someone feel holistically prepared and complete and life affirmed and celebrated at the end of their life.
Actually, you give them the opportunity to go through this experience in a very enlightened way.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is the goal.
Without all the old messages that people have
Yes,
been taught.
that is the goal. And to feel peace and to feel complete, it is important.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Tell us about, okay, so you have offerings of evidential mediumship, end of life coaching, spiritual coaching, and then you also have this Discover Your Divine Soul Self class. And so tell us whatever you'd like us to know about all of your offerings.
Yeah. Well, the evidential mediumship is, of course, pretty clear. And I think I've just described the end of life.
And your website is natureswayopen.com.
Yes, natureswayopen.com, where you can find all of those things. the Discover Your Divine Soul Self, I'm really passionate about this because it is for everyone and it's not about mediumship. There is I think sometimes a myth that people have around, well, I just have to, if I was given this gift in mediumship, then I could do it. I'm a clear example of that. I was not a born medium, but also I know that this is for everyone in some way, shape, or form. It may not mean everyone's supposed to be a medium for others, but we absolutely can learn to communicate with loved ones. But there is a step of that is important, and that is learning to feel and discover your own soul. My dad completely helped me with that, and it transformed entirely how I show up in life, not just in my purpose, but even in my inner world, how I see myself, how I recognize when I'm in my soul self versus my human self, and how much that helps me cope with life scenarios. And this is available to all of us. And that's where our loved ones meet us, is in that space of soul.
How do they find that space of soul? Do you teach people how to do that? Are some of your offerings, like I know you're having this class called Discover Your Divine Soul Self. What is the soul self? Is it a feeling or is it something people see?
Oh, I love that you asked that. Yes, I love that you asked that. Well, literally the discovery of that is going to be unique to each individual. But our soul is not something that is just over there somewhere up in heaven, and when we die, we'll understand what our soul is. Our soul is a part of us in the here and now. It's not something you have to find because it already is. It's something you simply uncover. It's like in the winter when you've got all this. Okay, well, if you live in the Midwest,
Also on the East Coast, in the North.
When you've got right, and you have to turn the defrost on, it's already there. You just have to uncover the awareness, or the clouds that are. It's like you can't see the rainbow in the sky because the clouds are just a little in the way, and then those dissipate, and now it's already here. It was there all along, and this is you. It's not something that is to feel when we pass. It is a part of who you are already. And when we can learn to feel that for ourselves, discover that for ourselves, know that we're in our soul self, it transforms how we show up in the world. It creates more peace with others. I'm no longer, fighting as much about politics and arguments and this and that. It's not that I don't have my same beliefs and my same values and my same morals and all of that, but I have a higher perspective. It's like being on the mountaintop. Most of us are living in the valley in our lives. We're in the muck. And when you can come out of that and step into your soul self, it really puts you on the mountaintop perspective.
Would you say it's like seeing things in life from a higher view?
Yeah.
From almost a witness standpoint, right?
Yeah.
Would you say? Now, I know your Discover Your Divine Soul class is going to be, are you having one starting in August? Is that what's going on? So we're going to provide a link to that in the show notes. And you're going to be doing that online? Will that be, or in person? Online?
Yep, virtually online. We meet regularly. We'll exchange a lot of community back and forth via email, and we'll kind of feel out. Each group has its own sort of culture, if you will. So we'll see what works for the group as it happens. But my goal, and this was spirit-led, by the way. I didn't even come up with this on my own. I woke up at 2 a.m. one day and they said, you're facilitating this course. And in 1 minute, I wrote down all of the modules and what were the objectives of each module. And they actually called it something different. They called it 4 months to freedom.
Wow.
But that makes sense.
It does.
Because when you are in your soul self, it brings you freedom. It brings you a sense of personal freedom.
It's beautiful. It's wonderful. And do you have a special gift for the members of our audience today?
I do. On my website, you can find a guide to understanding how your loved ones communicate with you. So you'll find that on the free gift page. I also have a little bit of a mini personal spiritual exploration if you're interested, where it kind of follows my process that my father guided me with in nature. And it wasn't necessarily about discovering mediumship. It was, again, about discovering the connection that is everything. And so if you're a person in particular who loves nature and feels that groundedness, that connection, that also may fuel you in your path moving forward.
It's wonderful. And what is your message about the importance of healing, Amber, that you would like to share with our listeners? Why should people go out of their way to face their stuff and to work on their stuff?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of reasons. One, if I could articulate in one short, simple way what healing is meant to me as a part of this process, what it all boils down to, it's this. Because of my discovery of all this, because of the felt healing from my dad and so on and so forth, I became to feel we are already divine, already whole, and already worthy. We can't even comprehend how loved we are. We are so loved from beyond. And I know this will sound cheesy in a way, but when I have had moments of feeling that worthiness, it has literally brought me to my knees in humility and tears.
So would you
Because
say that from healing that people can, if they heal their issues and all, they can connect with that more easily, connect with that divine, whole and worthy piece of themselves?
Absolutely. And sometimes whether it's going on, deciding to embark upon a path of self-discovery, or if it's seeing a medium, those things can ignite healing and ignite new steps in your path. It's not necessarily even that, although it can happen, all of a sudden I'm all healed with this one moment. But it gives you an anchoring in your love and worth. To hear from your loved one, "I'm sorry I did this to you." I hear this all the time. And they'll even explain why. They'll explain what was going on with their human self that caused them to act in that way. And it can release such a burden. It can release such a burden. And sometimes we don't even know the smallest things that give, leave a lasting impression on us as adults in our adult life. It's big things, it's small things. But healing not only in simple terms makes you feel better, but it heals the world around you.
That's true because now you're role modeling different behavior, different belief systems, and people are starting to learn from you. So you're kind of passing it forward.
Exactly.
Changing the legacy of pain and converting it, right? So Amber, what is the Amber tip for finding joy in life?
Childlike wonder.
Childlike wonder.
Childlike wonder.
Beautiful.
That is something that my dad has helped bring back. It's magic. And my husband, he was such a supporter of this, but sometimes he'll kind of roll his eyes when I say that word because it's the childlike wonder. But he has exposed me to the childlike magic, pure magic that is this connection. And even if it's not coming from beyond, seeing brightly colored fish everywhere, snorkeling in a sea, and really embracing that with full presence. That's childlike wonder. Seeing, I'm that cheesy person now that is like, oh my gosh, there's the rainbow. Do you think let's drive to the beach? And, I don't just see it, admire it, and drive on. I pause. I get out of my car. I look at it and I bring that into my heart. That is something I never used to do before. And that's childlike wonder. And those things can make us feel vulnerable. They can make us feel silly. You know what? Who cares? It makes my whole world better. And it makes me a better person to the people around me.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I love that. And I think also what you're saying is when you heal, you can enjoy more of your present moments. When you can enjoy more of your present moments, that's when you can tune in instead of worrying about what's coming up down the pike or thinking about the pain in the past. You're right there in your present moment, being able to enjoy and have that childlike wonder and not miss all those moments, precious moments. And Amber, just before we close, I know that your dad in spirit wrote a letter for the world. through you that contains life lessons for us all. And it had also amazing evidence he gave you after he channeled it to you. Could you read us that letter?
I will. It was an amazing moment, an amazing spirit experience, and I'll start really quickly with the evidence because it's fun. I really felt the embodiment of my dad as I wrote all this down. And after I said, okay, I know this was you because of how I felt that, but how can I really know this is you? Because that's our ego brain, right? Which is all well and good. And he said, your mom will give you something tomorrow. And then he shared with me a picture of a orange and a cowboy. My dad loved cowboys. And I had this feeling, go look in your email. The year before my dad died, he was sending me all the time silly videos and emails. And one time I told him, Dad, I hope this doesn't bother you, but I don't open them all because I want to save them for when you're not here. By the way, I would never do that now if I could go back and do all this again. I was robbing us of connecting moments because I was trying to hold on to something that I couldn't. But I intuitively just Googled orange in my email. And I found a video that my dad sent me that I never opened called How an Artist Peels an Orange.
Oh my God.
Never opened it. And it was a video of an artist peeling an orange, doing all this intricate stuff. And at the end, when he unravels it, it's a horse with a little gun holster.
Oh my goodness.
It's a cowboy. And the very next day, my mom gave me a plane ticket that my dad had been keeping in his pocket since 2006 that he found in his shirt. And this was 2020 when it happened. So for 14 years, he had been keeping a plane ticket. We traveled to Peru together. We had a father-daughter vacation and hiked the Inca Trail.
Wow.
My dad has led me on the mountaintop perspective. I led him in life with my Spanish and down the Inca Trail. He led me in spirit to the Soul Top Mountain. And she gave me that ticket the next day. And that was beautiful evidence. She found it in the shirt pocket. But here's his letter.
Yeah, let's hear the letter.
Hello. My story isn't finished. In a way, it's just getting started. You know those Jack in the Box? Ha! That's me. Surprise! There's his humor, right? Those Jack in the Boxes like, oh, all of a sudden I'm here.
It's your father's humor. There it is.
I want you to know Ambi is typing this, but my thoughts are being shared. We're figuring this out together. Here goes. Life is hard. There are regrets. My brother, sometimes the way I treated my wife. But life is more than the regrets. It's all the good stuff in between. The camping, the laughing, good food, good drink, music, riding, meant motorcycle riding, and love. And children, they might be the best part. Be strong for each other. Don't screw up your family. Have the heart to say how you really feel. Laugh together. Sing together. Always tell them how you feel. My heart was a little rough, a little hardened. Keep yours soft and open. Share your feelings freely. You will be so surprised once you're here. It's a joy, but life is so special and it's important to live it. What does that mean? To feel love. Remember me this way, the man who learned from his daughter what it means to love. I'm sorry for all the pain I caused. I am so sorry. I wish I could do it over. But it was good too. Hold on to that part. The rest is just lessons. The love is endless.
Wow, is that wonderful?
He shared a picture of him holding my son, his grandson, which really was his pride and joy. His, I'm an only child, so that's my parents' only grandchild, and and my mom, they were elated when we had our little Alex. He got me to that picture. That's the picture he wanted on here.
That's beautiful. That's fabulous. And he had you as his daughter, and now he had a little grandson.
Yeah.
How absolutely fabulous. Gosh. Thank you, Amber. Your experiences with your dad in spirit, both at death and after, have helped you to understand so much about our reality and who we really are, how loved we already are, how worthy we already are, that this world would be so different if we all knew that and all lived that as behavior. We're not all supposed to be the same. It wouldn't all make us the same, but it would be impossible to not recognize the equal humanity in every being that walks the earth. And I think that is one of the underlying lessons that you're teaching people now. I want to thank you from my heart for bringing your healing light to our cherished Grief and Rebirth audience during this important, enlightening interview. And as I like to say, to be continued, thank you again, Amber, and many, many blessings. Is that wonderful?
Thank you so much. I really loved connecting with you today.
Thank you. A blessing for both of us. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Grief and Rebirth. Remember, you can dive deeper into everything we've discussed by checking out the show notes and all past episodes at ireneweinberg.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Irene S. Weinberg on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and wherever you love to hang out online. Plus, we're on YouTube, so be sure to subscribe and never miss a video. For those of you listening, you'll find links to my 2 books, Good to the Last Drop and They Serve Bagels in Heaven, in the show notes. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see those books listed right above, so don't miss out. And here comes a special treat. If you sign up for Audible as a first-time user using my link, which you can find in the show notes, you can get They Serve Bagels in Heaven for free. And finally, people often ask me what I read, what I use, and what I recommend for healing and self-care. So I've carefully curated a compilation of those items to share with you. You can head over to kit.co/grief and rebirth to check them out. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, many blessings.